Hello, Henry from Belgium here. Today I have something truly special for you. LEGO 1592 Town Square Castle Scene. The set first appeared in 1980 in the United Kingdom as a promotional release in cooperation with Weetabix cereal, where you had to send in vouchers to receive it. 3 years later, a Dutch version followed in 1983 as a Unilever/Unox promotion, also only available through a label campaign. And it's that Dutch version that I'll be showing you here today. What makes it stand out is you get an unusually large number of minifigures, along with unique building choices and rare elements. And because it was produced in limited numbers, it has become a real collector's item that many LEGO fans are searching for. A complete set with the original box is incredibly expensive these days. Unfortunately, I don't own the box myself, as I happened to find this set rather by accident at a flea market. Since then, I've gradually restored it to be as historically accurate as possible. One day, I hope to add a complete copy with box to my collection, but that's for the future. It's a classic sliding box with a fixed inlay, where you slide off the cover. On the front you see the bookshop, the castle wall, a market stall, and the many minifigures arranged in a lively scene. On the back, as was typical for that era, you find several alternative builds and a child playing with the set. It underlines how versatile LEGO wanted this set to be. The instructions come as a handy A4 booklet. On the front page, you see the same picture as on the box, plus a small side build. On the second page, there's another fun little build with a horse. At the top, you see the 10 minifigures, each with their own features, and later in the video, I'll show them all individually in close-up. After that, follow the instructions for each submodel of the build. Everything is clearly explained, and the numbering restarts for each section, which makes it very easy to follow. In total, the instructions count 6 double-sided pages. The drawings are still hand-drawn, which gives them a wonderfully nostalgic feel. One charming error. On the front page, the food stall is correctly labeled Soep met Worst, but in the building steps on the last 3 pages, the same stall is misprinted as Soep met Worst. Soap instead of soup. A funny little mistake that slipped past the illustrator. The set contains 411 pieces, and when you include the separate parts of the minifigures, the total goes up to about 470. That's quite a lot for a set from that era. One thing that immediately stands out is the use of yellow bricks for the castle. Today, that might look unusual, but in the early 80s, it was perfectly normal and ties in nicely with the famous yellow castle from 1978. Many bricks are still from the earlier generation, without the later cross supports inside. Details like these immediately reveal this is an early 1980s set, and if you want it to be historically accurate, you really need to check every single element one by one. There's even more to discover. For instance, the beautiful cypress tree, one of my personal favorites. I have a sub-collection of sets that include this tree, and there aren't that many. Then there's the flag with the correct sticker, a nice reminder of how important stickers are in this set, something I'll cover in detail later. The red doors are also quite special. And then of course, there are the minifigures. This set includes 10 minifigures, although sometimes people count 11 because the black statue is added as well. That statue consists of 4 pieces, a Legoland torso, black legs without split, a black top hat, and a black head with a closed stud. That last detail is crucial, because only with the closed stud is it historically accurate for the early 1980s. On Bricklink, this statue often sells for €15 or more, but in reality, you can assemble it for just a few euros using loose parts, as long as you get that closed stud head. Having 10 figures in one box made this an exceptionally rich set for 1983. Most town sets at the time only included 2 to 4 minifigures, sometimes 5 or 6 in the largest boxes. 10 in one set was really rare, and it immediately gives the square a lively atmosphere. The lineup is also nicely varied. There are several townspeople, including market vendors and 2 female characters, but also 4 knights directly referencing the castle theme. These knights all have a torso and shield sticker with the lion with heart's emblem, a helmet in old dark grey, and each carries a light grey halberd. This exact combination appears only here, making them unique. The other figures are also worth mentioning. The 2 women both have the classic pigtails hairstyle, but with different outfits. The chef, with white legs, standard smile, and black top hat, is exclusive to this set and fits perfectly with the Unox stall. Then there are a few more exclusives you won't find elsewhere. The patron of the square, the man with the triple button shirt, and the blue uniformed figure with cap. Together, they add even more variety and make the scene complete. One last detail. In the UK version from 1980, the figures typically came with hollow torsos, while the Dutch 1983 release more often included the later ribbed torsos. 1983 was a transition moment when LEGO started producing the new torso type. But since LEGO often used up old stock, in practice you can find both types mixed in. This set comes with 2 32 by 32 baseplates. These belong to the classic LEGO road plate system, first introduced in 1978 and produced until the mid-1980s. They all share the same dimensions, but came with different prints: intersections, straights, curves, and variants with crosswalks. Here we get a T-intersection and a curve. On the T-intersection, the most striking detail is the 2 crosswalks. The curve plate is just as interesting, with a dashed center line instead of a solid line. These prints were not very common, and only appeared in a handful of sets. Placed side by side, they create a relatively large play and building area. For that time, this was unusual. Most sets included just a single base plate. Here you immediately get a proper square, where the buildings, vehicles, and figures will come to life. One of the most defining elements is the sticker sheet. Without the correct stickers, the set loses much of its identity. They give the stalls and buildings their look and make the square feel like a real festival. Even small details, such as the eyes of the horse and the year 1807 to 1872 under the statue, are only present as stickers. In that period, stickers were simply cheaper and more flexible. Printing required special machinery and was more expensive. There are 2 different sticker sheets for this set. The knight emblems, the awning stickers, and the other decorative details are identical in both versions. Only the texts and the flag differ. The awning stickers in particular are notorious. They get lost easily and almost always go missing in second-hand sets. In my own copy, they are unfortunately gone as well, and I've never seen them available separately. A set with intact original awnings is therefore very rare. On the second-hand market, you often come across replacement stickers. They can make a set look complete again, but they're rarely perfect. Original stickers from the early 1980s usually have a matte print, slight yellowing, and sometimes tiny cracks. New replacements are often too glossy, with bright colors and different glue. My tip: use a magnifying glass. It quickly reveals whether the print and paper match what LEGO used back then. The very first build is a small, old-timer car. In style, it resembles a cabriolet, perhaps inspired by the open touring cars of the 1920s and 1930s. Unlike most LEGO cars of the early 80s, which were built on vehicle bases, this one simply sits on a plain 2x8 plate in combination with a 4x4 plate. The use of grey bricks on top can be seen as a suggestion of a folded down roof. And the transparent brick at the front works as a simple but effective windshield. The black vehicle mudguards are not the same type. At the front you'll find the smooth arch variant, which in black was produced in very few. It's a subtle detail, but one that really adds to the uniqueness of this little build. The idea is simply that it's a dignified cabrio rolling slowly across the square as part of the parade. It may be a very small build, but it has character. And since this exact car only appears in this set, collectors immediately recognize it as the parade car of the town square. The second little build I put together is the flower cart with the horse in front. In this period, before 1984, LEGO didn't yet have molded horses in the assortment, so the animal is built entirely out of regular bricks. It looks simple, but you can still immediately recognize it as a horse. This horse gets eyes through a sticker, something I haven't come across in any other set. On second-hand examples, those stickers are usually missing. On top, the horse is finished with a 1x2 tile serving as ears. Technically, this counts as an illegal building technique, since you're wedging an element between studs, which over time can cause stress or deformation. If a 1x2 plate had been used here, it would be outright illegal. But because it's a tile, thinner and without studs, this solution is usually tolerated. The flower cart is also built in a very basic way, on a white 10x4 plate. A large white element like that tends to be quite sensitive to dirt and discoloration over time. On top of it sits the driver without a seat, plus a passenger who does get a seat, even on a small raised section. The whole cart is decorated with a generous amount of colorful flowers, which instantly gives it a cheerful look. Thanks to the turntable element at the front, the cart can easily maneuver behind the horse, making it not only decorative, but also an active part of the lively parade that brings this square to life. What I'm building here is a kind of town square castle scene, with a castle facade, a kiosk, a food stall, and a festive procession. It's not a pure castle set, and not a classic town set either. It's a unique crossover that brings to life that bustling village atmosphere, with a touch of castle added in. Designer Daniel August Krentz, also known for the Yellow Castle, created this square, and would go on to design many more iconic castle and pirate sets. For as far as I've seen in the instructions, the design of this square is well thought out and quite interesting. The build itself is actually very easy to recreate if you have the right period-correct bricks at hand. And if you don't care about historical accuracy, it becomes even easier. In the end, it's really the base plates, the minifigures, and especially the original stickers that make this set a valuable collector's piece. The Dutch version of this set was never sold in regular toy stores. Just like the UK edition, it was only available through a promotion. Still, it carried an official list price of 69.50 guilders, as shown here on the order form. That's the equivalent of nearly 100 euros today. Quite a lot of money for a toy set. Through the Unox campaign, you could order it with 3 Soep labels and the form, for roughly half that price. But even then, in 1983, it was still a serious bite out of the family budget. It certainly wasn't something you got for free. Exact production numbers were never published, but it seems clear that far fewer of these boxes were released compared to most other sets from that era. Right now, I'm building the start of the roof of the kiosk, and for that I'm using these large slope bricks. This is a piece I haven't come across before in this size. The slope 3x3 with double convex corner. In red, it didn't appear in very many sets, which makes it a bit special here. I'm much more familiar with the smaller version, the 2x2, which I'll be using later on. I've now completed the first 8 steps of the instructions, and it's time again for a few separate builds. First, I'll put together the upper section of the castle, and after that, the upper floor of the kiosk. Building this part of the castle feels very familiar. Not only do I have quite a few castle sets in my collection, but also the iconic Yellow Castle, which I've rebuilt multiple times. In its basic design, this structure is quite similar, although it lacks the distinctive red windows that made that model so recognizable. Instead, LEGO opted here for arch bricks and carefully placed openings. What I really love is the hinge that goes at the front. That's where the flag is mounted, and thanks to the hinge, you can angle it in different directions. It may seem like a small detail, but at the time, this was a clever use of existing elements to add real play value. Depending on the version of the set, you either got a UK flag or a Dutch flag. With this copy, it's clearly the Dutch version. The next thing I'm doing is building the upper floor of the kiosk. This really feels like old school brick building, using 1x1 and 1x2 bricks alongside other sizes combined with various plates. The building experience in general is surprisingly pleasant and varied. It never feels like you're doing the same thing for too long. With just the right number of parts, it gives you the sense of real building while still staying fun and accessible. The upper floor already looks great, and then it's a bit of a puzzle with different slope bricks to finish the roof. What I like here is that there are several shapes and sizes involved. You also have to be careful to use the correct ones, some without tubes or with an inside bar. Right at the end, there are a few rarer slopes as well, and it takes a bit of searching to get them all into the right place. The slope bricks all fit together nicely, with no gaps showing, and I think the result is really successful. The black and white pattern gives it that classic half-timbered village look, while the red roof feels both like classic LEGO and reminiscent of real terracotta tiles. That makes the kiosk a small but very charming and well-designed build. The only drawback is that there's no decoration on the upper floor, though that does leave room for your own imagination. For a change, I'm now placing some decorations and the minifigures on the base plates. The knights don't carry weapons of war, but rather ceremonial gear, no spears or lances. Their heraldry, a yellow lion with 2 red hearts, seems to be a clear nod to the Danish royal coat of arms. There are no factions yet, like the Crusaders or Black Falcons that would appear later. Here, the knights serve as a ceremonial guard within the parade. Next to the lamppost and the seating area, there's also a statue. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any extra information about it. It most likely refers to a famous person, with the years below meant as birth and death dates. What stands out though, is that this set is among the last to feature this type of minifigure. By then, LEGO had already transitioned to the modern minifig with movable arms and legs and the classic smiley face, just as we still know it today. Now that the square is slowly coming together with the decorations, it's time to build the last element, the stall where soup and sausage is sold. This is of course a clear nod to the Unox soup promotion through which this set was offered in the Netherlands. The stall itself is very basic, with no personal details, so in fact it could represent almost any kind of stand. Only when you place the brick on top with the sticker does it become clear what's being sold here. The original sticker sheet also included an alternative label, Fresh Ice Cream, so you could choose. In my copy, however, the previous owner applied Soep and Worst on both sides, which means I don't have the other sticker. For me personally, this is one of those sets that takes you back to a time when LEGO was still experimenting freely and occasionally produced unexpected gems like this one. The combination of a parade, a village square, and a castle wall feels playful yet grand at the same time. I also find the color palette particularly well done. So many different shades are represented, yet it never looks messy. The many minifigures, the stickers, the cypress tree, and the simple but effective building techniques really finish it off. It's a set I truly cherish in my collection, and I'm glad I was able to show it here in its entirety. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. And if you'd like to see more every Sunday, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.